Welcome to the Tomorrow Show with Sweet Dreams A.M. I'm your host Oscar, and this is the second episode. I actually wanted to mention something before we start. Regards of the music, you might have noticed a little bit of a difference. Apparently, I actually looked into it. Free users of Spotify will only get to listen to like a 30-second preview of the song that I've decided to put in, and the premium users will actually be able to listen to the whole song. So, as you know, in the first episode, there were music breaks. It's what makes the Tomorrow Show with Sweet Dreams A.M. so different is the music. It's a music plus talk show. So the difference basically comes down to if you're a free user, you only listen to a 30-second preview of it. If you're listening it on a premium subscription, then you actually listen to the whole song. I don't know if it will really be a big difference. For me, it's not just for you to discover new music, hopefully that you might like. Get a little bit of breaks in between me talking, even if it's just 30 seconds. Hopefully you'll find a song that you'll enjoy within listening to this music plus talk show. The way that this works when making these episodes, I also just learned this now making the first one. You submit it to Spotify Anchor, and then they review it, they reject it, or they approve it, just so you know. So this is just a process that I'm getting used to, so please understand that. Everything's gonna perfectly be fine, I think. By now, obviously, you'll probably listen to the first episode, hopefully, and you'll know that they accepted the first episode. Just so you know, you have to submit it, they review it, and then they tell me whether they'll reject it or they'll let it be published on Spotify. But that's all I wanted to tell you guys. So you might be wondering, what will I be reviewing? Well, you probably know by the title. It is the 2-episode premiere of the Obi-Wan Kenobi series from Disney Plus. I was really excited for it. I mean, I was waiting for these episodes to come out. I actually recently had played Fallen Order. It is a video game, and it shows the Inquisitors, the Night Sisters, and stuff like that. So I already had a rough idea because I have not seen Star Wars Rebels. So do not expect me to know much about the Grand Inquisitor. As you can tell, I was really excited for these episodes to come out. So, when they came out the next morning, I woke up and watched them, and I was like, I'm going to make an episode about this. As you know, in the Tomorrow Show, more than likely, you'll see more series here. So let's go to episode 1. I think one of the greatest things about watching the first episode right off the bat, they show you a recap from the films. And I think that's great because, I know some people probably do this where, they were already getting prepared for the premiere of Obi-Wan, so they actually sat down and watched all of the films. I personally didn't do that. I still have my memory fresh, which is just, Obi-Wan telling him, you were the chosen one. You were supposed to destroy the Sith, not join them. So I remember that stuff. That's why I didn't feel the need to rewatch all of the films. But I know people, were like, they want to immerse themselves. But what they do here from the start, they show you a recap from the films, and it's just amazing. They show you, from what I remember, it was just a bunch from the prequels, where it's Liam Neeson as Quan Gai Joe or something like that. I don't know his exact name, but it's Liam Neeson, right? His Padawan was Obi-Wan. Then they go over Yoda being like, oh yes, the boy, yes, the one from Tatooine. But you already have a Padawan, Liam Neeson, so you can't really have him in as one. So that's when I think it's kind of like, okay, well, I guess Obi-Wan is ready to not be a Padawan anymore. He can actually just move on to the next stage. From there, we also get the little segments of the awesome battle with Darth Maul when he kills Liam Neeson, and then Liam Neeson tells him, like, you need to teach the boy. He's like the hope in a sense of destroying the Sith. So the recap that they show you, I mean, it almost brought tears to my eyes because it's great. First of all, it gives you a really good refresh of what's going on. Because for people who have not watched the films, sometimes they'll be like, I'm not going to go through the whole 3 films or 6 films or even a new trilogy, watching Rebels and all that, right? In a sense, like, I'm not going to do that. I don't want to take the time to do that. So this recap that's in the beginning of the episode is just such a great way to bring in new fans to kind of catch them up to date what's going on with what's going to go on with the show. And for the people who already know what's going on, it's just great to see it. Like for me, like I told you, I already knew what was up. I already knew about the Darth Maul with Liam Neeson dying. Like I remember all of that. But just seeing it is so much better, and it gives you a better refresh than what I had in my mind. So I think the recap from the films, from the past 3 films of the prequels, I think it was just fascinating. I think it was just great that they did it. So yeah, that was like right off the bat for me. I was like, okay, this is good, So if I'm correct, we're back in Tatooine as always, the most famous planet of Star Wars, as people have mentioned. I think it's true. Tatooine is just like it's always there. It will never be gone in Star Wars. So we see the ship arrive. I didn't know at first. I was like, oh, I'm guessing it's the Night Sisters. I'm guessing it's them, or the Inquisitors. I think I'm just gonna call them Night Sisters, but I don't know if that's the correct form of calling them, right? So they come in. There's like this bar, in Tatooine. Okay, so I'm back. I actually needed to search up the names for them. Okay. Okay, turns out they're not the Night Sisters. Okay, I'm super wrong. The Night Sisters are they were like in Dathomir. They're nothing to do with the Inquisitors. So they actually are the Inquisitors. I was over here. I'm so wrong. I apologize. So to clear what I was saying, okay, and I even said that I was probably not right. The Inquisitors are the Inquisitors, the ones we saw, the fifth brother, the sixth sister, and stuff like that. The Night Sisters are just completely different. They're from Dathomir and stuff like that. They come out in the game too, and I know they came out in the Clone Wars series, which I watched. So I was confused. Okay, I apologize. Anyways, let's continue. Reva appears. She's the third sister with the fifth brother. He's the one with that weird like hat. So when the ship appears at this like bar, as I mentioned, from Tatooine, I think it's just like a normal bar. 3 Inquisitors. Obviously, the middle one is the Grand Inquisitor. Then there's the fifth brother, and then there's Reva as well. She actually has a name from my understanding, because like the other one, he's just called the fifth brother. I don't think they've been given a name like her where she actually has, in parentheses, Reva. So they're coming in, and obviously everybody's afraid of them. We have to remember, from my understanding, they actually have some authority, you know, like I'm guessing those guys could straight up just kill somebody just for suspicion and treason, you know, just like Emperor Palpatine. It's treason then, you know. So yeah, I thought it was cool the way they presented them. They made them feel like these guys, you could not even look at them or you might just straight up die. So they obviously go to the bar and they're like, we hear that there is a Jedi here. And, anybody that knows should, say something. If not, then you will also be, trialed and probably killed by them. And everybody in the bar is kind of like, oh, man. And, you might be thinking Obi-Wan. Me, personally, I didn't think it was Obi-Wan, because I was like, from my understanding, Obi-Wan's gone for them. They've already searched for him. They say like 10 years have passed from the first scene of the show. So I'm like, you're not talking about Obi-Wan. I'm guessing that they were trying to trick the audience into thinking like, oh, they already know about Obi-Wan. But no, they're actually talking about a different Jedi who's played by Ben Safdie. Now, you might recognize the name for any of the moviegoers. He is a director known as the Safdie brothers. They work together with his brother, and he's actually the Jedi. So they're panning around the bar, and the Grand Inquisitor's like, so this Jedi, they're trash, they're garbage, garb. We be pulling on them W's on them, Order 66. Remember that? Fuck them. Anyways, anybody knows about a Jedi? The Jedi's follow a moral code. So now you might think I'm doing the Joker, but no, I'm not. He's like, they will always stand out to do the right thing. So, let's see what happens. So, they grab the bar, and I think he, like, levitates, uses the force and throws, like, the dagger at the guy. And then you see the knife get stopped. So then they're like, oh, so there is a Jedi here. And it's that guy who's Ben Safdie. They look at him and it's like, you're the Jedi we're looking for. So then he gets up. He does a little bit of force power. He like makes some things from the top of the bar fall down to stop him. And they run. Then Reva, I guess she got like really pissed. And I think she's about to like fucking kill somebody. Just execute them there in the bar. And the Grand Inquisitor stops. Like he uses the force to stop the swing of the lightsaber. And then he's like, you better control your anger. You cannot be doing such insolences as a Inquisitor. He gets really pissed. With all right, She's like just straight up executing somebody just because he got pissed off. So apparently she's more like, she wants a bigger fish, and that was her deal. She's kind of like Reva's, like right off the bat. She's like, there's a bigger fish here. And I'm guessing it's Obi-Wan, right? It's Obi-Wan who's the bigger fish. Imagine. I'm sure Darth Vader wants Obi-Wan from what happened last time with their last encounter, right? So she's kind of like, these are just little fishes, they're nothing. And obviously the Grand Inquisitor like, hey, that's our job is Jedis, no matter how big or small, like even if it's small, it doesn't matter. That's their job. So he tells her, that's all we can get in a sense. So don't even like try going against my order. So we already see right off the bat that there is a bit of argument between the Grand Inquisitor and her. So you can already sense. And we see the fifth brother also kind of being on the side of the Grand Inquisitor. So we already see a difference there in how she's kind of going against the authority of him. So now we go into Obi-Wan. We see this like weird like animal in the sand, like really big fins and everything, and now they're cutting meat. So they're processing and cutting meat. You see them cutting it into blocks, then they sprinkle it with salt and then just package it. And guess who's there? Obi-Wan Kenobi. I was so excited to see him. I thought it was great because they show a more realistic side, and that's why I was always open to the series, because as we saw in the book of Fett, where they show a more humanistic side, I guess, that they're not just ravages. The Tusken Raiders, if I'm correct, the guys who are like, woo, they do weird noises. They actually showed that they were like human, and the other ones, they were just savages, like we didn't know anything about them except that they were savages. And here they actually gave them more human elements. And I thought that was great because we go deeper into the Star Wars lore, in a sense, the world that they have built. So we see the life of them, everybody clocks in, they clock out, he grabs a little piece of meat, like secretly, and it's for his like animal. He has like a type of camel, obviously being Star Wars, it's a weird species, but it's kind of like a camel. And we see him, feed the animal, then he just goes off. He lives like in a cave. Apparently it's like a little cave just in the middle of the desert, and he has like a bunch of like his little stuff and everything, his little transponder in a little like box hidden. And we see Jawa. He comes up with like a table of things, and he's like, "Oh, hello, Mr. Obi-Wan," in their language, right? He's like, "I got some things for you to sell. You've got the credits. If you got the credits, I got the stuff." And he buys like a little toy. I thought there were spaceships, because what I thought was interesting is that the Jawa mentions how they scrapped a Jedi ship. Now, as you know, the little ones, the Jedis had like their own little ships or spaceships. And there's like super rare. I forgot the material. Supposedly they're also made from a rare material. So if they found something like that and they scrapped it, it's like a big haul for them. It's like a big payday for the Jawas or anybody, right, that can scrap. The Jawa actually shows a Jedi belt, and he's like, "Oh, we also got this from the ship," and it was like a cool Jedi belt. And obviously Obi-Wan gets it, and he's like, "Oh, I thought the Jedis, were long gone and stuff." He plays that role where it's kind of like he's not a Jedi, he's Ben. That's his new name, Ben. If I'm correct, it's Ben. So he's kind of like, the Jedis are gone. He doesn't say that he's a Jedi or anything. So he buys a little bag of like trinkets, I guess. And then the Jawa's like, "Oh, your compressor's like going off. Here, you can buy this one." And I thought it was so hilarious. Obi-Wan's like, "It's not cool when you steal stuff from me and then resell it to me." And he's like, "And you don't even clean it." And then the Jawa's like, "Well, if you want it clean, it's an extra charge." So he just pays for the compressor again, and he goes off. I thought it was a great scene. I honestly like the Jawa scenes ever since in the series. I feel like they give him a bit of humor in these Star Wars shows. So from there, I think we see actually Obi-Wan go to a different place, and he's like examining the boy. Luke, he gets on the little like set like dune igloo, and he starts doing like the little things like when he was pod racing. And then like at night, I think he leaves that little bag, which was actually a bag of like a toy. I think it was like some sort of toy, like I don't know, for him to build. I thought there were parts for he bought parts so that the kid could use for his pod racing stuff, but it actually wasn't. So then we cut to a unique scene, and I thought this was pretty weird. Did not expect this. And you might be wrong here, like I said. So they show this, I forgot the planet, but it's where Princess Leia is. Now remember, and in the recap they show this. Padme gives birth, she dies, she gives birth to Luke Skywalker and Leia. The senator basically gets the girl, and they live off in a different place. So we show in there, and so when we go to this planet of the senator, they're dressing up this girl, and we're guessing that it's actually Leia. So then this lady comes in, which I think might be the wife of the senator, and she's like, "Okay, Leia, so you just need to be chill and just wave." So when she takes off the hood, it's like a completely different girl, and then the girl's like, "She thought it would be funny, so and then she's like, "Oh my god, again." So then we see Princess Leia. She's a little girl, obviously, because this is in the past, and she's running in the woods, having a lot of fun, climbing trees and stuff like that. And there's like ships coming out, going into orbit, and she's like naming the ships with a little droid that she has. She's like, "Oh my god, this is a ship 3000, Spitfire 3000, like Boba Fett's, like for example, stuff like that." And she's naming things, and then she's like, "Oh, probably mercenaries or guards going to a place." The wife comes in, and she's like, "Get down the tree, we need to dress you up because we're gonna have a meeting soon." So they get her down, and obviously Princess Leia doesn't want to do that. She's like, "Why do I need to be dressed up and act all modest, wave to people like I'm just a little girl? Like what do I have to do with politics, And the wife is like, "Oh, we'll train you to become a senator." So they go, they dress her up, she's waving and shit, and some other family comes in, and then they're all having like dinner or just talking. So then the little boy from that family is like older than her, so he thinks he's like a man, an adult, and he's like, "Well, I know a lot of things. I've heard my parents talk." And I think he tells her, "You're never leaving this planet, it's all lies. You're never going to leave this planet. You're going to stay here forever." And then the girl, Princess Leia, just looks up at the boy and is like, "You've never done a decision in your life. You're just too afraid to do anything by yourself. That's why you go off with what your parents talk, because you're a fucking failure. You eat shit." She just starts like hitting him with a white glove, slap with a white glove. It's like she's dissing him, but in a really proper manner. And then the boy's like, oh shit. The boy's just like, okay, fuck you. So then it cuts to the senator no less like, you cannot be saying stuff like that to your cousins. They're your cousins. And she's like, well, he was being rude to the droids. You know, they should be also treated respectfully. And so I was just giving him his own medicine in a sense. So then she gets mad and she goes off into the woods. And then we see a shot of like a dude who's bald, just like looking at her from the woods. So we presume that something bad is gonna happen. So I'm gonna go back. Now we're back in Tatooine. Now this part might get a little wonky, but I could be wrong. We see Obi-Wan in the night. I think he's going back to the cave, and then somebody approaches him. It's that Jedi, Ben Safdie, the one who escaped from the first scene. And he goes, Obi-Wan, dude, I need some help. What the fuck do I do? Or some shit like that. And then Obi-Wan looks down at him and like, I do not know who you're speaking of. My name's Ben. And then he's like, no, you're not Ben. You're Obi-Wan. Like one of the greatest Jedis. I remember you. And then he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. The Jedis are long gone. They've been killed and exiled, and stuff like that. He's like, I don't know who you're talking about. Leave me alone. And he's like, come on, man. I'm like, what the fuck's wrong with you? He's like, you were one of the greatest Jedis. What are you now, a coward or something? And then like Obi-Wan's like, look, I'll give you this piece of advice. That lightsaber that you have, he's like, you should go off into the desert for like 1,000 steps and just dig it there. It's the best thing for you. And then Ben Safdie's like, oh man, what the fuck's wrong with you? You were like one of the greatest Jedis from that time. Like, why are you like this now? And he just like shakes his head and leaves. And then, Obi-Wan just keeps going. The next day, as he's in the city, Owen, who's the uncle, right? Or he's the uncle who's taking care of Luke. He comes to Obi-Wan and he puts the bag of like the trinkets that I told you that was like a toy. He's like, I need you to stop visiting us, interact with us. And Obi-Wan's like, why, man? I'm just trying to help. I'm supposed to train the kid, help him. And then he's like, how you trained his father? And I'm like, ooh. And I think we'd seen this from the trailers too. That is a good burn. I was like, Owen. I was like, he's going in for like haymakers, gut punches, I'm like, he ain't holding back. I thought it was great what he did there. As they go, he sees that one of I think Ben Safdie, he's killed. They literally hanged him up to show everybody like this is what happens if you lie and stuff like that. They make it a really big deal. They basically just killed that Jedi, and Obi-Wan I think feels kind of guilty. He's like, fuck, I should have helped them. I should have helped them instead of just told them to fuck off. From there, the Inquisitors actually grab everybody and they start saying like, if anybody knows anything, like speak now. And they basically I think kill somebody or they cut somebody's hand, and they're like, you better say something. And then Reva comes up to Owen and she stares at him and like, what do you do? And he's like, I'm a farmer, I have a family. And then she's like, okay, I like you, man. What do you think of the Jedi? And he's like, I fucking hate the Jedi. Those guys are pieces of shit. I'm glad they're long gone and shit like that. And Obi-Wan's watching that kind of just like from like a little secluded place in a sense. She's like she kind of seems like she's gonna kill Owen, and she's like, next time, and if anybody doesn't say anything, we're gonna kill him and his family. But he doesn't say anything. He doesn't say anything about Obi-Wan. Like, yes, I know he's here, or like Obi-Wan's here in Tatooine. He doesn't say anything. He just stays quiet and just like says those lines and just looks at her. So then they leave, right? And once again, I think she does a gesture, and the Grand Inquisitors, the fifth brother takes her into an alley and it's like, hey, bro, you need to fucking stop showing your anger. Like, you're being too obsessed. You're kind of like breaking, I guess, rules of just straight up killing random civilians for no reason. And she's kind of like, you don't understand. I want Obi-Wan. I want the like prestige of getting him. So then Obi-Wan comes up to him and he's like, thank you for not saying anything. And he's like, I wasn't doing it for you. And he just leaves. So from there, he actually grabs his responder from the Jedi times, if I'm correct. And somebody's contacting him. It's the senator. And the senator's like, hey, Leia was kidnapped. Like, we need your help. Like, she's been kidnapped. So to show you that, they do a scene where she's running away. And this is one of my biggest problems. There's like 3 adults, the 3 like kind of mercenaries or bounty hunters. And somehow they couldn't catch the little girl. They show you like a chase scene in the woods where she's running and, evading them. And to be honest with you, I'm surprised that the little girl is somehow running faster than those bounty hunters. It really seemed unrealistic, in my opinion, that they couldn't catch a little girl. Like, she would, and in the scenes, they don't even make it seem like she's running super fast. It just seems like she's running her best, and it's not even that fast. And somehow the mercenaries are kind of like jogging and can't catch up to her. Well, it was really dumb, but they capture her. So the senator, he's like, hey man, we need your help. We need you to come rescue her. And he's like, that man is long gone, Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's like, I'm not like that anymore. I can't help you. And then he's like, hey, but it's your responsibility too. That's the sister of Luke. So in some aspect, it is her responsibility to also help. So then he's like, fuck it. He's like, okay, I'm gonna go help. And he ends the call. He goes to the sands, and I already knew what was gonna happen. He starts digging into the sand, like in some place where he digged it up. And when he opens the box, I thought it was so unique because there's 2 lightsabers. One of them has to be his, but who's the other one? I was like, oh, I think that's Anakin's. So if I'm correct, in the box, it's Anakin's lightsaber, or when he chops off one of his hands and two legs, he, I think, also picks up Anakin's lightsaber before he leaves. So he has Anakin's there, and then he picks up his and just digs the box back up. And then we see him basically go on a trip to rescue Leia. So from there, that's kind of like the whole plot, really summarized in a sense as best as I could. Really great episode in my opinion. So let's go to the characters, okay? Let's talk about the characters that are in this first episode. Obi-Wan, Ewan McGregor, the guy who plays Obi-Wan. Great actor. I mean, I'm so glad he's back. And I really think, in my opinion, and I know other people are saying the same thing, he is not, I wouldn't say he's carrying the show, but he really makes it good. You're there to see Obi-Wan, and he's delivering, as always, one of the best Obi-Wans. He does a good job of acting. Is at his A game in this series, so it's captivating to just see him in every scene. Even him just cutting up meat is satisfying because he's such a good actor. Really nothing wrong there. I like how he's really trying to leave his past behind. Now he goes by Ben. Obi-Wan is long gone. Like he says, I'm not that man anymore. So we see him how he's trying to kind of forget about him, but it's right now the situation is being caught for that for him. For Obi-Wan, the man he used to be. So it's really interesting to see that dynamic. We go for Owen, the uncle. I like him because he's kind of like he's truthful with Obi-Wan. He tells him like, how you trained your father and shit like that. He obviously does not have a good view on the Jedis and especially on Obi-Wan. So I think it's really unique how there's just a dude there just kind of like being more truthful. It's like, fuck the Jedi. And, like Obi-Wan Kenobi, what the fuck are you going to do? You couldn't even help the father of this kid. That's why I have this kid here, because you couldn't help him. The senator, the guy, it's the same actor from all of the Star Wars series. Obviously, I don't think he should be looking that old, but I prefer that than trying to use some de-aging technology like the Irishman, because then it could kind of look bad. They could have done what they did with Luke Skywalker, but where it's kind of looks like him even though it's technology. But I'm okay with it. I have no big problem with bringing back the original actor even though he looks old. I think it's fine. Reva, the Inquisitor, I mean, I don't know what to say about her. I think she is really obsessed with Obi-Wan, and I'm really curious to see why she's obsessed with getting Obi-Wan. I don't know if it's just the prestige of getting him, but I feel like there's something more rather than just getting the prestige to telling Darth Vader like, hey, I caught Obi-Wan, the guy you've been looking for 10 years. I want to know what's her motives. I hope she actually has motives apart from just getting that prestige. The Grand Inquisitor, I really liked him. I mean, all of the words that he would say were like really good acting. I haven't seen Rebels. I think that's where he comes out, as I mentioned. But he's doing a really great job as the Grand Inquisitor. I know people were complaining about his look. I think it's all right. I think his acting and his voice really helps with how he looks. I don't think there's any big problems. I love how he's more about authority. Like, hey, we can't just be releasing our anger onto these people or just kill them for no reason. Keep it under control. I like that. The fifth brother, I think he's also doing really cool. Like when he tells Reva, when he's talking to Owen, she talked to Owen. He's like, hey, you need to keep it cool or you're going to lose, I guess, your rank as an Inquisitor. So he's also pretty cool. The little girl that plays Leia, I think she did really good. We got more of her because, for example, Luke, we only saw him from a distance where he's kind of riding or he's acting like he's riding a pod racer thing. So we actually got to see, I guess, little Princess Leia. I actually was not expecting to see that. I remember from the trailers I had seen that they were going to show her. So I was really surprised. And it was a good surprise. I was like, oh, we're actually going to see young Princess Leia. I was like, I wasn't expecting that. And it's a pretty interesting character. The little girl who plays her, I think, does a good job of playing her because when we're older, we see how she's a leader and all that for the rebellion. So I think she's doing a really good job. There's no problem there except the chase scene. Let us go to our first music break in this episode. This song is the second track and one of the lead singles on I, Robot. This song can be understood from the perspective of the robot speaking to the human or the human speaking to the robot. This is I Wouldn't Want to Be Like You by the Alan Parsons Project. Glad to have you guys back. Now let's mention some of the things I liked. This is from the first episode, let me remind you. Ewan McGregor coming back to play the role of Obi-Wan. I mean, it's just great, I love him. I love the actor. I loved him in Black Hawk Down. I loved him in Doctor Sleep. I think for me, he's a really great actor. And it's obviously a welcomed thing to have him back. It's just like Christian Hayden coming back to play Darth Vader, or he's gonna play Darth Vader. The way that the Inquisitors presented themselves and the way that they maneuver around in their scenes is really great. They really feel like the authority, like people are really scared of them. And I'm guessing it's from the rumors because these guys are made to hunt those Jedi's that maybe survived Order 66, or those Padawans that survived and then they grew up and they still have lightsabers, or they still have connection with the Force. As I mentioned, the scenes with Ben Safdie asking Obi-Wan for help, really great to see him acting here. Sadly, as I mentioned, he did die. They fucking executed him and then hanged him up for everybody to see. That sucked, but he did a really great job of acting. Like, I'm just glad to see him in this show. Even though it was maybe short-lived, I think it was really great. As I mentioned, Owen and his depiction here in the series, where he's kind of like not so good with Obi-Wan, visiting the kid or trying to, even being, I guess, in the vicinity of his land. Things that I did not like, the only thing was that that Ben Safdie Jedi, the Lonely Jedi, he approached Obi-Wan. I don't know how he even knew about him. I don't remember seeing any scene where it was like he saw Obi-Wan. I don't know how it happened. Maybe the Force told him where Obi-Wan was. I'm not really sure. I don't think for the first episode there was too much to nag about, except, like I mentioned, the chase scene where somehow adults couldn't chase a little kid and capture her, even though it didn't seem like she was running super fast, so that was only one of the biggest problems, I think. And in full honesty, I don't think the first episode there was nothing bad to talk about. I think it started off really well. I think it's a really well episode. Now let us go on to episode 2, because this was a 2-episode premiere and I was so happy to see 2 episodes. I was so happy. I was like, man, you can give me 3, 4, I'll be content. More than 1 is enough for me. So let's go on to the second episode. Obviously we're gonna go over the plot first. So the introduction, as we remember, they're basically Obi-Wan was left with going over to that planet. I don't remember the name to be exact, but imagine a populated city, essentially. I think kind of like in the prequels where there's the scene with the death sticks and everything like that. It's like a populated kind of Tokyo, New York, Times Square, like area that has a lot of people, a lot of signs, a lot of shops. Okay, Obi-Wan comes off. Remember, he has his lightsaber, obviously hiding it. He also has his blaster, and as he's going into town, I thought and I've noticed people also appreciate it. I thought it was genius. I think there are clone troopers, because these are still from that generation, and later on they're stormtroopers. But since here we're still kind of like in the prequel area, from my understanding, after the prequels, but we're still in that area where clone troopers were still seen, from my understanding. We see this clone trooper on the ground asking for money. He's a veteran, and he says like, hey, could you give me some money, for a fallen veteran who participated in the war. James Morrison, he also plays that clone trooper, because remember, they were all taken. The DNA was taken from Jango Fett. Jango Fett got his own son from the same DNA, which is Boba Fett. So they all looked alike. They all look like James Morrison in a sense. He has a beard, obviously old, and he has the clone trooper helmet. That's where he's accepting money. And Obi-Wan actually gives him some money. For me, what I liked about it was that it shows this realistic side of Star Wars. For me, it's like the Tusken Raiders. They gave him depth. From there, he's asking people around like, hey, do you know where this girl is? I'm looking for, obviously he's not saying Princess Leia, but he's like, I'm looking for this girl. Does anybody know? Then this chick comes up and he asks, and the girl's like, nah, I doubt you're gonna find him like in one piece. And he's like, well, nah, seriously, man. Do you know where? Like, I'm trying to find this girl. And then the girl says, she's like a little older. She's like, well, I was once one of those girls that somebody was looking for and they never found me. Now look at me. I'm selling drugs, like look at my situation. I was once in that place too. And apparently that girl who plays that is actually the daughter of Ewan McGregor. That's the daughter of the actor that plays Obi-Wan. So I didn't know that, but I thought it was cool that the daughter was playing that role. And she tells him, you know what, man, here, this one's free of charge. She takes out like a little drug thing and she gives it to him. And it's like a few huffs of that and you forget about the girl you're looking for. So just do that. And then she leaves and Obi-Wan's like, oh, fuck. This little kid or younger kid comes up to him and he's like, oh, I know somebody who could help you. He's a Jedi. He probably knows where the girl is. And Obi-Wan's like, a Jedi? He's like, okay. So I thought it was really cool. So they started leading him, and then we see some scenes of the Jedi who it's supposed to be, and it's the dude who played, I know he comes out in the Eternals. I didn't see that movie, so I don't know the specific role, but he came out in Struber. His name's like Kumail Nanjiani. I could be saying it wrong, I apologize, but he's that dude who got buffed for Eternal. He's like I thought he was a comedy actor, but he did Eternals like I think in a more serious tone. Came out in Struber. He came out in Eternals. I know for Eternals he got buffed up. I don't know if he's come out in any other film, but I thought he was a comedy actor. So he's the Jedi. And then the Jedi's like, he has like this, it's this mother with her daughter, and he's like, do not worry, and then he like uses his arm and the gates close. So you're like, oh my God, he's a Jedi. I was like, whoa. A Jedi? I was like, I bet Obi-Wan's as surprised as me. And then he sits down and he's like, okay, so you need some passage to like a different planet. Okay, I can do that for you, no problem. And he like puts on his transponder and he's like, I order you to allow passage to this mother and daughter so they can get to the destination. And then that's when I knew he was a fake Jedi. He was lying because he does the thing that Obi-Wan did when he was older, where it's like, you shall let us pass. And all he did was just waved his finger, right? This guy, he does like the Magneto. He puts his fingers next to his head and he's like focusing. He's like, okay, I'm using my Jedi mind tricks on you. He's speaking to the transponder. You're gonna let them pass and you shall allow them to go to the planet that they desire. And he's like squinting his eyes using all his brain power. And then the guy's like, as you wish, or something like that. And then he's like, whew, they exhaust you. And then he's like, okay, anyways, safe passage. Anyways, you gotta help a Jedi with credits. He charges them and he's like, no, being a Jedi, being executed, the last of a generation, you please give me a little bit more, like a little tip, because I'm a Jedi. She gives him the money, and then he's like, he gives her like this passage key that I guess they put into the ship, and that leads them to wherever they need to go. And he's like, go to base 6 right now, and you can go now. And they go. I was like, at this moment, I was like, okay, this guy's lying. So I'm like, and then he tells like the dude on the transponder, all right, they bought it. They're going right now. So at that point, I was like, oh, okay, he's lying. He's not actually a Jedi. I was curious. I was like, oh, is it like, are there other people shutting the gates for him? Or I thought magnets, and turns out there were magnets. So Obi-Wan comes up on him, and he right away like tells that he's not actually a Jedi, because the dude, that comedy actor, he's like, oh yes, I am a Jedi. It's like, it's really difficult. I charge like, I'm gonna give you some fake prices. I don't remember the numbers exactly, but he's like 6,000 for the information, 4,000 to get you there because I'm a Jedi, so you'll be safe. He's like, you'll be all right. Nobody will mess with me because I'm a Jedi. And then 2,000 just because I'm a Jedi, and Jedis are almost all dead. So just for the hardship that I went through. And Obi-Wan's just like, oh, okay. If you say so. And then he like I guess finds out, and he takes out the magnets from his wrists, and he's like, you're no real Jedi. You know what I'm saying? He's like, you're lying. And he's like, okay, you can check this place. I think he gives him the name, and then Obi-Wan just leaves him be. So then they go to this place, and I thought this was really funny. As he goes in, it's like this drugstore. It's literally like Breaking Bad. He enters, and he's wearing like a gas mask with his robe, and there's just like, it's like a meth lab, but of the future. It is a futuristic meth lab. Like, if you ever thought, I wonder how the meth labs are in the Star Wars universe. Well, if you look into the second episode of Obi-Wan, you'll know how a futuristic meth labs looks like. And he obviously makes a distraction he mixes, I guess, some drugs to make an explosion to distract. And then he enters a room. He gets into a fight scene. Obi-Wan, he gets punched, and then he starts fighting them. And he finds Leia. And then as they find Leia, the bounty hunter who had captured the little girl, Princess Leia, they grab Obi-Wan, and then they see he has a lightsaber, and he's like, oh, so, little insight I forgot to mention, Reva actually hired the mercenaries to kidnap this daughter of the senator, who's Princess Leia, in hopes that Obi-Wan was gonna show up. And that was obviously behind the back of the Grand Inquisitor. Her plan worked. It actually got, Obi-Wan actually went in to help. So the bounty hunter tells Reva, like, Obi-Wan's actually here. I don't know how you did it, but you were right. He actually showed up to save the girl. So she's like, okay, I'm coming my way. Like, keep him there. And they start punching Obi-Wan, and they're like, you're a piece of shit, like, they start talking trash to him. What this guy does, Obi-Wan, he had like, I think it's that same drug that the girl had given him before to forget about it and stuff like that. And he like throws it, and he puts on the mask that he had on earlier, so he didn't get affected. The 3 bounty hunters starts getting high, so they kind of look around like, whoa, what's going on? And that's when he grabs the little girl and takes her. The little girl's like, why should I trust you? I'm like, I'm here to help you, like, don't worry about it. So like, I'm here to help you. I'm not here to kidnap you. So the girl's like, oh, okay, like, kind of not trusting him, obviously, because he's a stranger. So as he leaves, Reva enters the room, and the 3 bounty hunters are high as fuck. They don't even know what's going on, and she gets really pissed, and she's like, oh my going, where the fuck is it? Like, where is he now? So as he's coming out, the Grand Inquisitor is there with the fifth brother, and there's also a new Inquisitor there. I think she's a female. Different species. She's not human. I think Riva so far is the only human of the Inquisitors we have seen in the show so far. And the Grand Inquisitor gets really fucking pissed. He like tells her like, what the fuck are you doing? He's like, you shouldn't be doing this. She's like, Obi-Wan's here. Like, it's confirmed. Like, we have him in this city. So he tells the fifth brother, all right, lock up the whole place, make a perimeter, make sure that he can't leave this area. And the fifth brother's like, all right. And he starts going off with the troopers, from the Empire. And the Grand Inquisitor tells her, I know why you want to get Obi-Wan, because you want to get off that stench. And I think this is what it means. In the very first episode, they show a scene of some Padawans and they're training, and then boom, Order 66 happens. And the Jedi, tries to help them, the ones who were training with him. And obviously she dies. So the Padawans are like, what do we do? And they're like, well, I guess let's just run. And they run, and it's a new scene. Like, they made a new scene, another perspective of Order 66. So I think one of those Padawans was Riva. So that means she was a Jedi Padawan who became an Inquisitor, So the Grand Inquisitor starts talking shit to her and like tells her like, you want to get him so you won't have that stench off you. But you don't realize that you'll always be like a rat in a sense. Like, you always will be a scum, which was a Jedi Padawan, like, you always be a scumbag. You hope that getting Obi-Wan and showing it to Darth Vader will get you that nobility for you to feel like I'm not scum anymore, because she was a Jedi Padawan, but that's not going to be it. And then he like just tells her, and guess what? You're not getting the prestige. I am. I'm going to say that I'm the one who captured him. So she gets pissed and she leaves. But what she does is that she basically tells the bounty hunters to put up the bounty of Obi-Wan, because I think he is wanted. But he basically tells them to put it on everybody in the city. So everybody in the city, kind of like John Wick style, they get all these bounties like, Obi-Wan's here, this is how much, like, capture him. So you see a bunch of people in the streets of that city, like bounty hunters, just getting their guns out, getting ready to basically kill Obi-Wan. From there, we see the fake Jedi, and the little kid comes in who had brought Obi-Wan to that guy. He's like, look how much he cost. You had him right here. We could have made like a bunch of money. And the guy's like, well, it's never too late. And he takes out a blaster and just starts also like in search of Obi-Wan. So I thought that was great. Obi-Wan's like with Princess Leia. They're like in an alleyway. He had knocked out some dude who was trying to capture them. So obviously the little girl sees that Obi-Wan's like a bounty poster, and she's like, what the fuck? You lied to me. You're not here to help me. You're also a kidnapper. All you did was like help me from those kidnappers so you could kidnap me. And obviously Obi-Wan, he's like, no, dude, I'm your parents sent me to help you. What are you talking about? Like, yes, I might be on a wanted poster, but you got things wrong. She runs. So then this is like a runaway scene, and Obi-Wan's trying to capture her again. He's like, hey, no, I'm actually not bad. And she's just running from him. Obviously, once again, another thing that I did not like is that somehow Obi-Wan was not able to catch up to her. Somehow this little girl is way faster than him. Then some of the bounty hunters kind of like see the girl, and they see him and like, oh shit, this is the guy in the wanted poster. So they start firing, and obviously Obi-Wan fires back, and it becomes this chase scene where Obi-Wan's chasing her while bounty hunters are chasing them. And once again, the bounty hunters are somehow not able to catch a little girl. This little girl's like the Flash, but the movie doesn't make it seem like she's super fast. She's running like kind of slow in a sense. From there, they're on the rooftops, and he's still chasing after her, and the girl's like jumping over rooftops. There's this awesome bounty hunter. He's a droid that has like a mosquito head. He is, I think, from the originals. I think he's like a famous bounty hunter. He's kind of like Bosk. He's kind of well known from what I understood. So it was kind of nice to see him. And so they start shooting. Then this dude who has he looks like a dinosaur. Like, his head looks like a velociraptor. He's also another bounty hunter. He starts like shooting at Obi-Wan. And then I think the fake Jedi guy, he sees like the action, but he doesn't fire. He just comes out into the roof. It shows where he's out in the roof also looking. And then the girl takes like a jump that she can't make, and Obi-Wan's like, no. And then she's falling down. She's gonna basically fall to her death, and Obi-Wan reaches out his hand, and he like uses the Force. He's like trying his best to, I guess he had disconnected himself from the Force, kind of like how we saw Luke in the new trilogy, where he kind of had, I think, disconnected from the Force. So he reaches out and actually helps the girl. He like helps her not fall to her death. He kind of stops her and then slowly lays her down on the ground. So I think the fake Jedi saw that, and he's like, oh my god, that's a real Jedi. That guy's like actually a real Jedi, like without him knowing. So he comes back down, and this is, he comes back down to the alleyway where the Princess Leia is, and she's kind of like, oh shit, like, you saved me, like, you are a Jedi. And he's like, well, shh, keep it down. He's like, don't say that. But yes, I might be. And I thought the scene was pretty cool. So then as he's going, they meet up with the fake Jedi guy. Because, that droid that I mentioned has like the mosquito head, he comes up behind him, and then the fake Jedi shoots him. And he's like, oh my god, like, you're a real Jedi. Hey man, I'll try to buy you some time here. This is like the way to get out of the city because they couldn't get out due to the lockdown that the Inquisitors made. He gives them this like key thing, and he's like, go to Bay 5. There's a ship waiting for you guys, free of charge, like. And I think it's because he noticed that Obi-Wan was actually a real Jedi. So for him, it was like, damn, like I'm helping, So he's like, I'll try to buy you guys some time. In terms of Reva, the Inquisitor Reva. So I thought this scene was funny. They leave and then they show the fake Jedi guy confront Reva. It's like, it is me that you're looking for. I am the Jedi that you have been looking for. And then she's like, no, you're not. Get out of the way. And then like she steps to the side and then he gets in front of her. Like, no. I am the most wanted Jedi. Everybody's been searching for me. And, like, you're not going to get to them. And she's kind of like, wait a minute. So then she pushes him to the wall. And there's this like Jedi thing where they can look into your... I've seen this only happen with the Inquisitors. I don't know if it has happened before. But I feel like only the Inquisitors have done that, where they kind of look into your mind. So they use the Force to kind of look into your mind to see. So let's say, like, I know, like, he knew the location of Obi-Wan. So she's like, well, I guess you're going to tell me by Force. So she uses the Force. And the guy's like... I'm not going to tell you anything. I'm one of the strongest. And he just starts like growing like, oh, she like stops holding him. And she's like, well, thank you for telling me, because she like basically got it from his mind. Thankfully, he didn't die though. I thought she was going to kill him. I was kind of bummed out because I actually liked his character. But she kind of leaves him and he's, tired because apparently when they do that like mind reading trick, it actually it makes the other person feel exhausted. So she leaves now knowing that they're going to be going to like Bay 5 to leave on a ship. So as she's going, Obi-Wan tells the girl, okay, get on the ship. If you need to, just leave without me if the situation calls for it. So then Reva comes into the Bay station or whatever it's called, the place with cargo and everything. And Obi-Wan's hiding behind it and he's kind of like, fuck, I'm going to have to fight her. Like he has his lightsaber, kind of like I might have to do this. I was really excited because I was hoping that they were going to actually fight. But then the Grand Inquisitor comes out and he tells her like, back the fuck off. This is how you do it. Like I'm going to kill Obi-Wan. You're not going to do shit. So as he's about to kind of reveal the location of Obi-Wan because he was behind some boxes, guess what happens? Inquisitor Reva straight up just kills him. Kills the Grand Inquisitor. Like she like tells him something. I forgot what she tells him. And then she just impels him with her lightsaber and just straight up kills him. Just kills the Grand Inquisitor. I was surprised by this because from my understanding, the Grand Inquisitor is supposed to be like some tough guy. So I was like, what the fuck? I was like, Reva just fucking executed him like a sack of potatoes. Like nothing. Like she just told him some words and then just turned on her lightsaber and impelled him with it. I was super shocked. And from that encounter, Obi-Wan takes advantage of that and he actually gets on the ship. So then Princess Leia just presses the button to start, leaving. In a sense, thanks to Reva killing the Grand Inquisitor out of nowhere, Obi-Wan got the time to actually get on the ship to actually go with the little girl and go off to take her back to the senator or her dad. Reva's like, you're not gonna escape from me. And she like screams at the ship as it's leaving. I was like, what the? I was just more in shock. I was like, this guy's supposed to be super strong. I thought he was supposed to be super strong. He's the Grand Inquisitor, and he just got wrecked like nothing. Like he just died for no reason. I was like pretty mad about that, in my opinion. From there, as it leaves, the next scene is probably one of the best scenes. The best way to end it, for a premiere. And this was a 2 episodes, so it's part 1 and 2. We see like a Bacta tank. Now, I don't know if you guys remember, but Darth Vader, from my understanding, when he would take off his suit, he would like be in that tank where I think that's where he would meditate. And you could see his burnt flesh, like you could see like his whole like fucked up body. So the camera just like shows his face with his eyes closed, and then he opens the eyes and you hear the iconic like where he's breathing. I think it means that he now knows Obi-Wan is out there. And the reason I say that is because he used the Force. Because that's why I think that he was disconnected from the Force until he had to save Leia from falling to her death. So I think that's what made Darth Vader kind of open his eyes and be like, Obi-Wan is still out there. Like, he's not dead. He's actually out there. So he opens his eyes and the camera's just focusing on his... And you can see, and I think it's Christian Hayden with the makeup where it's Darth Vader's, like, fucked up skin, all burnt, all white and pale with the mask since he's in the back of the tank. The camera goes to black and then you just hear the... him breathing, and it just ends. Probably the best ending. I was like a little kid. I was like, oh my god, that was Darth Vader right there. And the best way to show him was like this. I think that was such a great way to introduce us to Darth Vader into the series. Obviously not our first introduction. He came out in the past films, but the best way to introduce him in the series was like that, with his all fucked up skin, when he's in his tank meditating. So a really great way to end the scene. Let us go to the second music break. Now this next song, which I was surprised to know, is about a guy being used for sex by a wealthy married woman, only using him for that with no further use for him. Hence why he feels dirty doing the work, but does it nonetheless. By Steely Dan, this is Dirty Work. Now let's talk about some of the characters in the second episode. Obviously some of them will be repeated. The new fake Jedi, that comedian who came out in Eternals, and he had his movie with Struber. Really funny guy. I actually was not happy that he was gonna be a Jedi. I was like, I don't see him as a Jedi. When he first came out, I was like, I don't know. He doesn't feel like a Jedi. Like, I always have him as that comedy guy. But then when he turned out to be like a con artist, I was like, okay, that fits him. I was like, that he did a really great job. He really did try to help. Obviously, that ended up giving Reva the location of Obi-Wan, where they were gonna be or how they were gonna escape. Yes, but he had good intentions. He was trying to buy them time so they could get on the ship. So for me, it's kind of like, yeah, it was an innocent mistake. Like, he wasn't actually trying to give her the location. She just extracted it from his mind. Like, sad, yes, but he was trying his best. Good intentions, as they say. Obi-Wan here, I loved him more because it just shows more of his character. He's beating people up. He had to use the Force again. It seemed like a big effort for him to use the Force. Yeah, man, Ewan Mcgregor is just doing a great job. Like, I just can't emphasize enough. He's doing such a great job as Obi-Wan, and I really love him. The Senator, we got to see him asking for help, and him being like, okay, thank you, Obi-Wan, for actually getting her back. Now, just come over and we can have her, and you can go back to your life in the dunes. Princess Leia, the little girl, I think she's doing a really great job, because in that scene we see her more like the mom, which is Padme. She was a senator, from my understanding. And I think she's doing a great job because you can see her being the leader of the rebellion. She's doing that, like, yeah, she does seem like somebody who would be a leader. Reva, the Inquisitor, I don't know what to say, man. I just wasn't expecting the death, I wasn't expecting her to kill the Grand Inquisitor. The fifth brother was great. He actually comes out a bit more and he actually talks. I think he seems like a really strong character. He seems like, I feel like he was like the right-hand man of the Grand Inquisitor, like he feels like he's also like the Grand Inquisitor about authority, following orders and all that. So let's talk about the Grand Inquisitor next. Disappointed by his death, I'm not really happy with it. I wanted to see more of him. I was really liking his character. Like, I was starting to like seeing his development, like how he was maneuvering, the way he was acting. So it kind of bummed me out to see him just get fucking killed like that. And then the way he just got killed, like, for me, it's like, come on, guys. Like, the writing team was doing so good. Like, I felt like that was a little hiccup for some reason. For me, that's one of the biggest problems, is the way they just fucking killed him. The clone trooper, which I mentioned, who was asking for money, really great character there. Yes, minor character, but gives into the depth in which I was talking about, is that it feels realistic. I think the characters here, they're all being fleshed out a bit more. Reva, I'm still waiting to see where they're going with her, because I still don't understand why she's obsessed. We know that she is maybe a Jedi Padawan by what the Grand Inquisitor said, but I'm still a little iffy. I'm like, where's she going? Like, what do the writers have intended for her? Because Obi-Wan, he's doing a great job. He's obviously trying his best to forget about his past life, but by the decisions and the situations that he's in, he sadly has to, be that Jedi that he once was. And I think it's interesting, like I said, that dynamic from episode 1, that dynamic of him kind of being like, I don't want to be like that anymore. I'm a new guy. I'm Ben. I'm not a fucking Jedi. Like, he really plays that role well. Reva, the Inquisitor, I'm kind of like, where is she going? She just killed the fucking Grand Inquisitor. So I'm kind of like, is she now a rogue Inquisitor? Like, she's now not even with the Inquisitor. Now she's on her own mission of getting Obi-Wan. So for me, it's like, is she just going to become the new leader? But I doubt it, because the fifth brother's going to know what's up. He's going to be like, oh, you killed him, like, you straight up killed him. Because I'm kind of curious, is like, what is she going to say? That Obi-Wan killed the Grand Inquisitor? Or is she just going to leave? That's what my dilemma is for this character, is she gonna, like, become a rogue Inquisitor where she's not even with him and she's just, obsessed on finding Obi-Wan by herself? Or is she gonna report how Obi-Wan supposedly killed the Grand Inquisitor and she had nothing to do with it? So I'm just curious about that. Like, I'm just wondering what the writer's gonna do with her. I think she's a good character, but I feel like her compass, like what her purpose is for me, is a bit convoluted. I'm kind of like, what is her purpose? Like, why is she obsessed? And maybe in the future episodes, actually, I'm sure that they'll discuss why she wants Obi-Wan. Whether maybe it really is to kind of clean her slate of her being a Jedi Padawan. Maybe capturing Obi-Wan is her way of saying, like, you see, I'm not that Jedi Padawan. I am committed and to the Sith, or to the Empire. So I'm really curious to see what to do with her. I'm more interested in the fifth brother. I think he's really great. He kind of reminds me of the Grand Inquisitor, where it's about authority, it's about following procedures. I really want to see what happens with the fifth brother as well, because I know there's other Inquisitors that are supposed to come out in this film, or I mean in this series. So I'm curious to see what happens. So what I like, as I mentioned, the veteran clone trooper. I'm glad that James Morrison, I think that's his name, the guy who plays Boba Fett, that he obviously, it's obvious that they will bring him back for this, and he's currently doing Boba Fett, so they probably have him at the standby for things like this. But I'm glad he came out, as a veteran asking for money. I thought it was great. And Obi-Wan, being Obi-Wan, he gave him money. It really speaks to the character of Obi-Wan and speaks to the situation of some of these clone troopers that I did not even know occurred, I know in the Bad Batch, I think they might show that, like what happened to some of the clone troopers. But I thought it was great that they show you that side of the future. The bounty hunters, I thought it was great how they all get this like alarm like of John Wick, like there's this man, this much money to kill him, and everybody in the city apparently has a gun and they're ready to kill, they're ready to get that bounty. And it's understandable because I guess his bounty must be a lot of credits, as they mentioned. So everybody, gets up with their guns and they're searching for him. It was just amazing how everybody's just against Obi-Wan now that they know that he's there, and they're offering a lot of money. That was pretty cool. The way that Obi-Wan used his powers to prevent Leia to fall to her death was great as well, because it shows him kind of using all of his force, guessing reconnect back to the force. And thank God he did, because he saved Leia from falling to her death. I thought it was pretty cool. I also like the fake Jedi, the way that he's a con artist selling himself as a Jedi. In my opinion, I think it's dangerous, because you can have an Inquisitor be like, what do you mean a Jedi? And then turns out it's just a con artist. More than likely he might end up dead just because he's selling himself as a Jedi. So yeah, I thought that encounter was great with Obi-Wan, and how the fake Jedi guy, the actor's like, okay, I'll help you guys to get out of here from my good heart. The end of the episode where they show Darth Vader, and like I said, the way they showed him without his helmet, where he's like in his tank meditating with all his fucked up skin and the mask, I thought it was great. That's probably one of the most unique ways to show him, because you want to make something fresh, it's like Rogue One. The way that they introduced him, he's just fucking killing everybody in the hallway, it was a really great way to introduce him at the end of the film. And the way they introduced him here is also really great. I thought it was one of the best ways to introduce them, like new, fresh, and different. Now to our last music break. The lead singer Jim Kerr wrote this song after reading stories about Polish political prisoners being held in Russia to the Second World War, with Kerr mentioning in an interview of the guy's wife who had been away and separated for a long time. Hence the perspective of a lover keeping her thoughts in his mind. By the Simple Minds, this is All the Things She Said. Glad to have you guys back on our last music break. Now to basically finish up this, this episode. What I didn't like. Okay, so there was a scene, I don't know if you remember, but it's when he uses the Force, obviously, to prevent her from falling to her death. Once he does that, she, gently falls onto the ground, thanks to Obi-Wan, and in the next cut, he's in the alleyway like nothing happened. The reason that I don't like this scene is because it made it seem like the bounty hunter somehow forgot about him. Now, he killed the dinosaur-looking bounty hunter, but the one that was like from the past films, I think, the one that has like a droid with a mosquito head type of thing, he was still up there. He was still shooting. But it kind of makes no sense because, like, did he jump down? Even though in the next scene they show him walking into the alleyway. It just made it seem like the bounty hunter somehow stopped shooting him in the rooftops. That's what I did not like. It seemed like a continuity error, or somehow nothing happened. The bounty hunter somehow just forgot to shoot him, and he, made a brisk walk down to the alleyway. That's one of the things I did not like. Another thing, which is the same thing I did not like in the first episode, is how the bounty hunters and even Obi-Wan, once again, were not able to just capture this girl running in the city. Somehow, she is quicker than them, even though she's not running as fast. It's minor things in my opinion. I really think there's nothing too bad that you can talk about this film. So I think episode 1 and 2, like I said, I don't think there's anything really too bad to talk about. These 2 episodes was a really great start. There's been things like I think even in The Mandalorian and especially in the Book of Boba Fett, where some episodes felt lackluster, some episodes felt boring, they were just kind of filling space, it's kind of like, could you give us something interesting, and that happens. I don't know why, but I feel like they've been doing that, and I'm kind of hoping that Obi-Wan doesn't have that, where like an episode or something feels like lackluster, where it feels like nothing really happened, there was no point of it. It doesn't seem like that with the 2 episodes, but you gotta start off the series with a great start to kind of have people being like, okay, I can't wait for the next one, because obviously if you do 2 episodes that are boring, then people are gonna be like, whoa, I'm not watching this anymore, So I think it was great that they did a 2 episode premiere. I think that was the way to go, because it really sets things up right off the bat. Grand Inquisitor dies. Reva is obsessed on this manhunt for Obi-Wan. Presumably Darth Vader already knows that Obi-Wan is actually out there. So I think it's a really great way to jog people up for the next episodes or to come. They're, I think, being released every Wednesday. So next week on Wednesday. But yeah, more than likely just expect for me to wait for 2 episodes to be released and then I'll review it. for the Obi-Wan series. So don't expect me to cover next week just one episode. I'm gonna probably wait till the 2 more episodes are out and then I'll review it, then 2 more and then I'll review it. Don't expect me to just review 1 episode next week. More than likely I'll be waiting for 2 more episodes to come out and then I'll do the review. Just like here where it was a 2-episode premiere, so I reviewed the 2 episodes in this one. Expect me to basically just wait for the next 2 episodes to come out of the Obi-Wan Kenobi series and then I'll review it. So yeah, that's basically it really. Like I said, I don't think there's too much that I didn't like about it. I think there was more things that I liked about it. I think this series, like a bunch of people are saying, there really wasn't anything that was like, man, I fucking hated this scene. You know, like everything was good, everything was great. Like I said, the only minor thing was like how they couldn't catch up to a little girl running. You know, that didn't make sense, but nothing too big. There really wasn't anything to dislike about the series, in my opinion. So yeah, I think the 2 episodes were great. My consensus of what I thought about the 2-episode premiere of Obi-Wan Kenobi show, great. I think it was just a great way to start. Can't wait for next week to see the episode myself on a Wednesday. I'm really excited to see what these series do with Obi-Wan. I want to see his journey. Really excited, as you can see. So I thought they were really, really good. I am your host, Oscar. This is The Tomorrow Show with Sweet Dreams A.M. Thank you for listening, and goodbye.